In the last few years, my ability to read a book has just plummeted. I used to be able to read 30 or 40 books a year, but now I'll go months without even picking up a book. I wanted to dig into this and see what is going on here. Is it just me? Is it truly the fault of social media torching our attention spans? And perhaps most importantly, and probably why you clicked on this video, what can we do about it? This video is every bit as much for me as it is for anyone watching this. I'm not gonna sit here in my little corner of the world and tell you that the solution to your reading problem is deleting TikTok. These things are here to stay. We need to figure out a more sophisticated approach to solving our problems than simply saying, get off your phone. The first thing that I wanna know is just how bad is it? Where are we in terms of reading books compared to previous years? Because it's really easy to assume that since the birth of technology, reading has plummeted. But is that actually the case? I spent way too much time digging into charts and graphs and papers but it was worth it because I found that from the year 2000 to the year 2021, the average number of books read dropped from about 18 to 12, give or take. So a little bit of a drop, but not like a cliff or anything. But that's when I realized that it's actually worse than that because these averages don't really capture what's going on here. You have a very small percentage of people doing a lot of reading. So it's nearly impossible to just smush the line and this is where the average is for everyone. Instead, we need to look at a different metric. And the best one that I've found is looking at how many people are reading total. So here we can see in the year 2000 that 17% of US adults say they did not read a book in the past year. But here's where it gets a little bit unfortunate. As of 2023, 46% of Americans haven't read or listened to a book in the past year. Yeah, that's really bad. So that's where we are. You might ask yourself, okay, what are the characteristics of the people that read? Like who are the ones reading? This really surprised me. The two characteristics that are most common for readers are a college education and wealth. So for example, there was a study of a group of self-made millionaires, which found that 85% of them read at least 2 books a month. And it keeps getting crazier because if you keep stretching this statistic, you see that it keeps going. Billionaires in the US, they're reading even more, upwards of 50 to 60 books a year. Now, correlation does not equal causation, and I'm sure that there are other factors that also come into play here. But it is interesting to realize this common theme among financially successful people. After all, these are some of the busiest people in the world, and somehow it makes me feel even worse about myself. It means that they see a level of importance that I don't, which we will get to later. Let's be really careful here that the message isn't just, well, get your act together, you know, like just do it. Because if we're not doing something that we want to do, that is a desire of ours, then something is stopping us. So the question is, what is that thing? What is stopping us? Well, if you ask the internet, most people on there will tell you that it is because of distractions, a lack of time, and then of course you have a lot of people that blame it on our short attention spans, which I just disagree with. So I went back and looked at all of the times in my life when I just ripped through a book. And I looked at and compared what was different about those times compared to the times when I just couldn't get myself to read. I really wanted to get below the surface. I don't really care for answers that increase blame. I want answers that give me responsibility, that give me an opportunity to change, instead of blaming it on a defective attention span. And I found 3 things that really stand out to me. Contrary to what most people are saying on the internet, I think it has very little to do with attention span. The first thing is a lack of purpose. The times in my life when I couldn't get myself to read, like now, were usually times when I was aimless, kind of floating around, not really sure what I wanted, kind of waiting or hoping something would just come to me. That's the first thing that stops us. We're not really curious about anything in particular. The second thing is we're accustomed to pre-processed information. If I sit down and watch short form content, most of the content I come across doesn't require any processing power on my end. I don't have to think, and better yet, I don't have to go search for it. So now contrast that with us having to go find a book that we think will be good, pay money for it, plus then we have to engage in a form of learning that we aren't accustomed to at all. And like any other skill, reading is one of the things that we have to maintain our ability to do. The last reason I find myself not reading is I sometimes try to force myself to do it just because I know it's good for me, even though I don't enjoy it. For reading to work best, you can't treat it like medicine. Not at first, at least. There needs to be some kind of enjoyment there, which again comes back to pursuit. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't get past what I discovered about wealthy people reading more than me. What do they see in reading that I don't? Because whatever it is, I'm pretty sure that it's important in helping me figure out how to read more. Okay, so we have this guy, Stephen Kotler, very successful author and speaker in the realm of high performance, like really high performance. And in one of his books, he breaks down this, the ROI of reading, which I think answers most of this question. So for an average blog post, it takes about 3 minutes to read. Now contrast that with the amount of time and effort put into writing the blog post. For a 3-minute read, it's usually about 3 days. So for every 1 minute you spend reading, you're getting about a day's worth of work from the author. Okay, pretty good. Now, what if we compare that to reading a book? So the average book takes about 6 hours or so to read. For a book about this size, the author usually has about 15 years worth of effort. The ROI of a book is obviously dramatically more. So for example, for every 1 hour that you spend reading, you're getting 2.5 years worth of effort and experience from the author. And the thing is, these authors aren't just random people. Like maybe you pick Chris Voss, right? FBI hostage negotiator. So for a weekend of your time, for example, you can get his communication tactics that he perfected to navigate very high stakes negotiation. And you can just get that with a few hours of your time. When you actually stop and think about that for a second, that's just wild. Based off of everything that we have learned so far, how do we get ourselves to read more? I found some really interesting things in here. And again, I want to emphasize that I'm not looking for the traditional answers. We have to look at how to integrate our lives with technology and do the things we want to do despite the distractions that plague us. The first thing that I learned with that is aimlessness is the enemy of learning. There needs to be something I'm looking for, that I'm orienting myself towards. So define my aim is first. And books are the stepping stones to doing that. Obviously, we want to find the fastest and most efficient way of doing that. And if a book doesn't do that, I'm not going to keep reading it. The second thing that I learned is to stay in practice. Basically what this means is instead of blaming my attention span or blaming the internet for my lack of discipline, I'm gonna treat this like any other thing that I want to get better at. And I can start really, really, really small with what I can manage and slowly build up an endurance for it. Because that's so much less daunting than thinking that I have a defective attention span. The third and final thing that we need to increase the likelihood that we will get ourselves to read is to determine the ROI that you need. Reading is a tedious, time-consuming process. So it's worth asking yourself, what would I need to get out of this book to make that uncomfortable process worth it? Like seriously, I'll hold a book and be like, I don't want to read this, but I'll do quite a lot for the right return. So what would I need to get from this book in order to make that process worth it? And sometimes that answer changes as you read through the book, but it does give you a really good metric or a really good gauge as to whether or not that book is satisfying your need or satisfying what you are looking for. I would love to see a discussion in the comments about why you don't read as much as you think that you should. And what are some of the tactics that you use or have used that help you read more?